Welcome to another evening of Jiva Live. We're broadcasting to you on Facebook right now. Please, as always, be sure to send us your questions, comments, and concerns about our upcoming panelists. With that said, we have a star-studded cast for you today. The screen is full. We're going to manage this as best we can, but we have some great stories about indoor, beach, and we're going to highlight today the Beach High Performance Program. With that said, our panel today is Eric Fanamoana, former gold medalist at the 2000 Games, 16 plus years on the AVP, still rocking it on the beach when he gets a chance. We had a pre-discussion about, just setting up nets and how we can do that, and I'm sure we'll get into that stuff later. We have Carly Wopat, two-time All-American, as well as player on Stanford, women's junior national team player, great stint, and I'm just naming a few accolades there. Also, we have the director of the national championships for the beach and the tournament series manager, Mark Pahalui. And we have our very own from Jiva, Mike Adams, who runs the Jiva High Performance Program. Joining us on the call, I think right now in audio, is our Director of Sports Development, William Doyle. Bill, if you could either jump on and say hi real fast or jump off, we'd love to hear from you, but the broadcast has started either way. All right, my name is John Titus. I am the Junior Associate Director of our Sports Competition Committee as well, and Director of our overall high performance program along with Bill Doyle. Again, panelists, thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be a great show. I look forward to it. And of course, we couldn't make this all possible without people behind the scenes like Aaron Laban. So again, tell Aaron what questions you have on Facebook, what we can do for you, and direct your questions to these people. If somebody's not watching us right now, make sure you comment with them at whoever that coach might be and get them to watch today. All right. With that said, we'll start with kind of the easy stuff. Mike Adams, I'm going to start with you. A lot of people don't know that we have both an indoor high performance program and an outdoor beach high performance program. So what does it mean to be a beach high performance player? How do I become one? What is out there for me? Why, as an indoor player, would I want to be involved in Jiva high performance on the beach side?
Well, I'd like to start by saying the national one's been around for quite some time. Our region itself only started about 3 years ago. And so now we are able to have all the different age groups. We carry anywhere from 2 to 4 teams per gender, per age group. And we will train 2 to 3 times leading into some local qualifiers for our U.S. national tournament out in Utah. It's been all over. I've been all over the place. Mark can tell you where. I'm drawing a blank off Midwest. I've been to Florida. I've been to California for it. It's been pretty cool, all different locations. So we've got kids in our region who have trained, qualified for the national tournament, won a bid to it. And we've even had somebody finish second in the nation from our region, up in the Northeast, on the national level, on the highest level for them too, the open level. So we've got it here. We've got lots of kids playing beach. Love to have more, obviously. This year is a little different. Obviously, we haven't had our tryouts and all that stuff like we normally do. But obviously, we're going to look to build into that in the winter and then obviously into next summer again, trying to get everything up and running again once we can safely.
I appreciate it, Mike. And I think, the idea is, this is available to all of our Jiva members, everybody in the region, something they can really look to. And you kind of run your tryouts as also a clinic so they can learn a little bit about the game at the same time too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When we run the tryouts, we run it actually kind of similar to, somewhat similar to the indoor one, but we do a lot more teaching only because we like the coaches that we can try to get involved. A lot of them tend to be more indoor oriented. So we like to introduce them and kind of bring them in. We'll introduce a drill and they just got to follow along at that point, and they learn the strategies that we just went over, and they're kind of learning along with the kids. We also have a group of really highly talented coaches too. Like some of them been through, I'm through, Beach Cap 2 so far on the beach. So that's been some great training through USA Volleyball that they offer. And I've been able to share all that with all the coaches that have worked with us. We've had anywhere between 8 to 10 different coaches.
Mhm.
They'll travel with us to the different tournaments. Again, it's a little different. So again, we have we with the different age groups and the number of teams we have, we end up easily qualifying 10, 15 teams going to nationals, just our regular US nationals out wherever it's being hosted each year. Each, but on the same side, we can also send teams to the national high performance. We can send one pair per gender, per age group out to represent our region also. So what's pretty cool is they are allowing that. There has been some slight changes on the national level. I don't have all the details. I don't want to say anything wrong, but I know they've combined some stuff with the beach and the indoor, and some new people are in charge. So we're waiting for new stuff to roll out as things are happening, and just to see what the new changes are. But it's a pretty awesome opportunity. I know one of my own kids was out there. Absolutely had a blast out there. Training with the coaches that they have are phenomenal. Great competition, bringing in even some international teams to play against. It's been a ton of fun on the national level too. So again, it can build from not just our region, we can then send them on to the national level.
Awesome. So kind of along that line, Mark, if I could. So Mark, how do you work in parallel and then at the same time doing your USA national thing? How do you work with Jiva and Mike to make sure we foster that relationship, but yet grow the region at the same time and grow the national USA pipeline at the same time?
Well, thanks for having me on here. I appreciate you guys putting this together, or having a regular system with this and inviting us on. And just a real quick note so everybody knows, but we're still in hopes for the national championships to happen in Huntington Beach on July 18th to the 21st. It's still a hope, but we're waiting for some of the stuff to get approved and move forward so we can have that national championships for everybody. So if you're planning to come out, that's where we're at right now. Hang tight. For you coaches that are looking to do that as well, hang tight. Hopefully we can get a word. As soon as we get official word, we'll be blasting it everywhere as much as possible. So it's still there. In regards to the national program, working with Jiva and the other regions and stuff, what we try to do, especially on the high performance side, is try to work with the regions and help them develop their high performance. So some of the big things that for some of you coaches that maybe just do indoor or do beach, and some of you athletes out there who are involved in beach or indoor, as much training and getting touches of the volleyball as much as possible is going to help you improve, whether you're an indoor player or a beach player. With the high performance portion of it, the more you get during the summertime training with these more of a structured elite coaches who have been through a certain level of training, understanding and the level of teaching aspects of volleyball period, and the benefit of working with other coaches that are national team coaches and understanding how to teach is pretty important. So you'll get some additional coaching from that. The coaches will be able to learn from other coaches some of the drills. And that's how we try to expand into the region, so that when the regions are very important, because they can find within their area these top players they have the opportunity to play. So even if you're not a top player or you're new to the guys coaching, it's an opportunity to go learn some valuable information and improve yourself every time. So maybe one day you will be the top player, and then have the opportunity to be one of the athletes, like Mike Adams said, a spot at the high performance championships, or even an opportunity to go to the national team or national championships representing your region. So we work with guys like Mike Adams and other coaches, and developing a program. Our national team coach will explain to them what we kind of look for, what we try to teach, so it goes through our whole pipeline. So as you develop as an athlete, you're getting the best information as possible to your hands to be able to utilize, and improve in your game. And if you get to the level where you're reaching to the elite status, then you're in the pathway of learning the game of beach volleyball at the highest level. So as you progress as a junior to a senior of the junior level, and you're 18, you go into college. And the other part of this is being recruited too. I know a lot of people out there are looking, and coaches are looking for colleges to recruit their athletes, or athletes are looking to be recruited by colleges. So once you have all these things connected with you as a player and as a coach, you have connections to be able to to speak and meet with other college coaches to help improve those athletes. So once that develops within the region, reaches out to our national team program, where we start showing tryouts in certain parts of the country, you can start going to them and understand already what the coaches are looking for and how to move and improve your game. So there's a lot of doors that start opening when you start getting involved with the high performance program, as you guys know, indoor and obviously on the beach side. So it's wherever you want to do and what you want to improve as an athlete, you can do those things.
Perfect. And Mike, I'm going to ask this question to you, but then Mark, I'm going to follow up with a similar question. And then Mike, I know you're going to sign off after this, but Mike, in a very quick statement or sentence or answer, how does a Jiva coach get involved with Jiva High Performance? What is their best way to start that path?
Yeah, well, we'll send out, like we do each year, we'll send out an email to all the club directors and really all the adults and just see who's interested. They'll email back, we'll get them on a list, and then I usually reach out to everybody individually to see what they can do and their schedule, and then we'll invite them out to tryouts and even some pre-trainings, talk to them, see where they are, what their comfort levels are, and we just kind of go from there. I'd also, so again, don't feel like just because you never played beach, you can't be a quality coach. You just got to learn the strategies. I know they're different than indoor, but it's going to make you a better indoor player and a better indoor coach, understanding, that players get to do every single contact on the beach and play defense. Your middle blocker now is passing and playing defense. Your setter now gets to swing finally, like all of a sudden you've got well-rounded athletes even on your indoor court and making them better. I mean, just look at our most of our national team players all played beach too. It made them much better.
I agree. Yeah.
I do have to thank, I just got to thank Mark real quick. He's been a huge help. He's set us up with hosting, obviously, national qualifiers in our region and in the regions around us. So because of him, we've been able to have multiple qualifiers right within Jiva for our kids to win bids, and all the kids around the Northeast come and play in it. We've set up 20, 30 nets at a time and fill them with 5 teams on each, just to give you an idea how many teams are coming to try to win bids to nationals, as well as some local, although a little bit further south, some of the other regions also. So he's been a huge help. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate your time. Cool. Yeah, Mark, same question I gave Mike before is, how, if I'm a coach, I want to get involved in the national high performance pipeline, what's my step one?
Your step one is, like Mike said, to get in touch with the region, get in touch with him, and get involved with the programs there. When we do have these national qualifiers or tryouts within the region, then you can participate in those things. Once our national team program starts going there, you can introduce yourself, and this is where things start opening up doors for you, is that you can start introducing yourself. The more experience you have, the higher level you can move up in regards to coaching and being a part of the national program, even to the point to where you can come and be flown out to California and help some of our training programs, our camps, things like that you may be interested in being a part of. This will help your resume. This will help your resume for if you want to be a future college coach, or even start training professional players in your area or across the country. So this starts giving you some credit, some background, and some understanding of the sport. And for the person who does coaching on the beach or the indoor or just indoor, this will just help you understand more about the game. It'll help you understand some strategies to be able to implement. There are some crossover things that you can start doing. One of the things that they pulled from the 26th Olympics is about how many touches. And a lot of stuff, when you start talking to Eric will explain to you a lot of these things that he does, including the touches, meaning the touches of the ball. The athletes learn every time they touch the ball, that gets them an understanding and learning of how to control it, what they're looking for, the result they want from it. And so when the Olympics came around, they did a count of what the setter does in an indoor, and what the middle touched the ball, the outside hitters. I think the middles were like 7 touches in a game to 25 or 30 years. And then the outside hitter was somewhere around like 14 or something like that. The setter was even less than a full game, was like at 21. So you can imagine in a game to 25, which, can go pretty fast for the most part, but those are the minimal touches that each one of those positions average throughout a game. If you go to the beach side, a game to 21, you're looking at each player touching the ball about 40 something times. So it's almost double, triple what the setter will get, or the middle blocker or something. So there's big amount of opportunity to learn the game and understand it with the beach, and obviously the movements, the sand, the resistance, the quickness, the ability to react. Indoors, you're set in a position, obviously, right? And that's your position. You don't really move from there, or you get rotated in from there. But in beach, you have to do all aspects. Mm-hmm. And having a well-rounded understanding of what's happening around you is going to help you tenfold on the indoor portions of that, especially for your middle blocker, who will just do their block and then maybe just kind of turn around and watch what's happening. They'll be more engaged when they turn around because they have to react and understand that the ball could potentially come back to them, and have more of that natural reaction that they would learn on the beach. Setters are usually really good with this, and as most of you coaches out there, you probably already know this, or you athletes that are setters out there, you guys already know you're probably the most athletic and person who knows every position, because you're constantly moving. You know what the hitter's got to do. You know what your middle is going to do. Beach, that translates really well to the setters getting onto the beach, because they know exactly what they react to the ball. They're constantly moving with their partners and understanding where they need to go in that aspect. But basically, those places for the coaches to move up and understand and start working with their athletes and start working with other beach athletes is where they can start moving up and going through the different programs, starting off with contact in your region.
Perfect. No, I appreciate that. Again, Mike and Mark, I wanted to spend the first 15 minutes or so kind of going over the high performance and the pipeline and how the region and the national team work together. And I thank you both again for that. And now, Mark, Eric, and Carly, I want to get into now the stories and the nitty gritty of what does it mean to be a player. Eric and Carly, I apologize for keeping you guys on the mantle there, but now we're ready for you two to kind of be the stars in the show. And I just did it really quickly in 2 lines, but I think, Carly, if you want to start, Carly, can you just kind of give us your bio of, where you went to college and kind of your highlights? Who's Carly as a volleyball player from, the college game to now? And, so people, that may not be familiar with, that, not only a 2-time All-American, you got some accolades behind you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for having me on, first of all. My name is Carly Wopat. I attended Stanford University, and I played on the indoor team there for 4 years. Then immediately I started playing professionally with the indoor national team after I graduated, and I played 4 years overseas as well in France, Turkey, Japan, and China. And then last year, 2019, was my first year playing professional beach volleyball. So I made the transition and just kind of jumped headfirst into the fire. I competed on the AVP tour and the FIVB World Tour. But yeah, I definitely am still transitioning. It takes a lot of time, and I'd love to talk about my experience. I'm sure a lot of people would be interested about that. But yeah.
So I guess a follow-up question, and there's kind of a little question and follow up by a bigger question. In college, what position was your main position?
I was middle blocker.
Okay. So obviously, the follow-up question is middle blockers, can't pass or play defense. So how'd you learn how to do that? Or did your college coach actually let you do that a little bit sometimes to develop you as a whole player?
I always wanted to be able to do everything. Mm-hmm. I was just that kind of player. So even as a middle blocker, I wanted to get extra defensive reps. I wanted to get extra setting reps. Whenever there's a chance in the gym, if our libero was getting extra reps after practice, I'd be like, can I jump in? Can I get some digs? So I wanted to be able to perform all the skills well. And there was one year where we played a little bit with me actually playing back row. So full 6 rotations. And I don't think it panned out into season. It was kind of a preseason experiment, but John Dunning did consider it. So I think, I had good ball control skills as a middle blocker. And then when I went and started playing overseas, I noticed a lot of other countries train their players a little bit differently than we do in America. They train all skills. So I practiced a lot of setting. In Japan, I dug more balls than I've ever dug in my entire life. And they had me hit high balls out of the middle. They had me do all kinds of interesting stuff. So I definitely have more experience than I think other middle blockers do, but I certainly had my work cut out for me coming to beach. Passing and setting have been like the two skills that I've needed to work on the most.
No, I think, Carly, I think you've done an outstanding job. And anybody that tells me I'm a middle blocker, I can't pass or play defense, I tell them to look at middle blockers like yourself in the past and go, you can do this. So I appreciate your efforts, and I love what you do on the court. So Eric, along the same lines, give us your quick bio. Where have you been? What have you done? What are you going to do next? And how did you transition to the beach game, or was it something you did as a kid?
Yeah, I went to Maricosta High School. It's a big indoor volleyball school. I played indoor, and then I went up to UC Santa Barbara. But from when I was a freshman in high school, I played in all those CBVAs. USAV didn't really have any beach tournaments at that point. So I was playing every summer in all kinds of tournaments and just having fun with the game. And then obviously when the season came up for indoor volleyball, then I was an outside hitter. Like Carly said, I was hitting those high balls all the times. It was probably from my bad passes, but I got a couple extra sets from shanking it or purposely passing it in front of me so I get more hits. But that kind of just translated into something I always wanted to do. I grew up here in Manhattan, Hermosa, the history of beach volleyball. I just wanted to be like those pros. It was so much fun, especially back in the 80s, watching them when I was in high school and in the early 90s. It was so energetic. The fans loved watching us play. Family and friends down there, all over pretty much the United States. There was such a big growth of the sport and so much, maybe not as much participation as it is now, which is, it's great for the sport. But that's kind of like how I started. And then right after college, I played for 16 years on the AVP tour. I was self-taught though. I didn't have coaches, hey, do this, do that. I was motivated. I did have a conditioning coach, and his job, I told him I want to be the most conditioned athlete there is on tour. So I took my conditioning extremely serious. It was just more of, back then also we had side out scoring. So those games, in 2 days, you can be playing 5 games lasting almost 6 hours, 7 hours of real competition. And you got to learn how to, be in great condition, but conserve energy and maybe more of a mental part of that as well. It wasn't such a sprint and risk rewards out there. It was more of a maybe hold on and they'll fall. Just be patient and work on side and out.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's your journey is commendable, and I appreciate all you've done for the sport of volleyball. Without a doubt, you've done a lot, and I appreciate it. So with that said, I guess, Eric, I'll give this question to you is, how does your outdoor game help your indoor game and vice versa? What makes, what did you learn from beach that you took to your indoor game? What did you learn from indoor that you took to your outdoor that have worked in both realms?
I would say more beach to indoor, just because I became faster, stronger for sure, condition wise. I was always, it really helped me get more touches because, you don't really want to be in the gym all the time, and it just kind of gave you a little break, but you're still getting those good quality touches on the indoor and then bringing it back out to the beach. So it's almost like 2 different sports, but they're all for the same purpose. And, those elements on the beach, when this ball is moving, especially when it's windy, and you're trying to go get it in the sand, and we have really thick sand, it just helped with the speed. And also, one is in indoor, if you make a negative movement, you can make up for it pretty easy, but in the beach, if you make up, you know, you have a negative movement, meaning you're moving in the wrong direction for a ball, it's really tough to kind of go back and get it. But those explosive movements, especially quickness, you know, it really helped on the indoor game. But if nothing else, maybe saved my shoulder as an outside hitter. It's like, what are you gonna do with that ball out there? Are you gonna hit or are you gonna hit? And you know, and the beach, it kind of made you think a little bit about, you know, where the open spots are. So I think there's definitely a good translation between the two sports. So I would really like to see an indoor team play some on the beach as a 6-man team, and then see what they do in, you know, a tournament, and see like, hey, look what we did, or kind of challenge them, make it more for fun though. I wouldn't say do it all the time, but to break up the indoor practices and maybe the monotony of you know, those practices, and then bring them out to the beach and have some fun, but maybe learn something.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And Mark, I'll kind of go along that line and play off of Eric is, you know, as an indoor coach, what would you do? Should I play half court doubles sometimes, 1v1? How do I bring the outdoor game to the indoor game during, you know, especially in the Northeast during the winter time? You know, would you recommend 6v6? I know, you know, sometimes in California, there's big tournaments out there, you know, 6v6 outdoor tournaments on the grass and on the beach, sometimes 4v4 tournaments. You know, what would you recommend we do as an indoor coach here in Jiva to get our kids more touches? Something as simple as 2v2 in my court a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, definitely would be an opportunity to get more touches, playing the 2-on-2. You know, typically there's some basic games that a lot of the indoor coaches, I'm sure, are already playing with the 3-on-3 behind the 10-foot, but you're getting those additional touches for your players and stuff. For your as region area, there are some places like indoor facilities. If you have access to them, this can be done there. You can run, just like Eric said, you can run your six-person team practice on the sand. What's unique about that is you're not really getting the outdoor elements, meaning your sun, the wind, and things like that would affect the ball. You're almost playing in regular conditions like you would play in an indoor facility, but you have sand under your feet. So now these athletes are having to move a little bit more difficult. They have to be more efficient on their steps because, like Eric said, if you're off, if you make a negative step, it's very difficult to accommodate or, you know, to save yourself from that. So staying more efficient, having more effective moves, reacting and not afraid to dive and get to balls and things like that, which they can start doing safely on the sand, will help translate to the indoor portion of it. It's always good that, like Carly had mentioned, having the opportunity for your players to play every position. I know as an athlete myself playing in the sport, I always wanted to play every position. I played, you know, outside, I played setter, middle blocker, libero. And so whenever the coach needed somebody, they knew I can do the job, and I'd be easily pushed into that position so that I can make the team better or keep the team going. And that helped me with my transition when I was going into the beach as well, and then playing.
Now, Mark, I know you have an extensive beach and, you know, coaching and playing pedigree as well. I apologize for not asking before, but do you want to give us a little bit about your background volleyball career?
Yeah, no, I'm originally from Hawaii. I grew up in Hermosa Beach, the mean streets of Hermosa Beach. I played every sport: basketball, baseball, soccer, all those fun things. I surfed before school, after school. Probably the problem was I surfed during school, so don't do that, okay, kids. That's where Mom got mad, sold my surfboard, and that's how I got into beach volleyball, actually. And started playing with my friends going into my junior year in high school, and started training. The coach I had at the time knew quite a bit and was involved with USA Volleyball. He was a ref, he was a coach, he helped our junior and our national team program at the time. So very fortunate. My first year going into playing organized volleyball was with this coach. And so he actually asked me about if I knew Eric, and I was like, Eric who? And he was a crosstown school at Maricosa. I was at Redondo, so we were crosstown rivals. Eric's a little older than I am, so I won't go too deep into that. But so that's how I kind of got introduced to the volleyball. Started playing. Met Eric shortly after while he was in Santa Barbara. I was very fortunate to develop a relationship with him and have a good friendship. I started training with him when he got back, whenever he was in town. So that helped me get into the transition of playing beach volleyball, and ended up playing on the tour for about 10 years during the time with Eric. And so when I was training with him, that's where I learned most of my game. Learning with him and Gino Basile, Tim Hovland, all these pro players that I was very fortunate to be working and training with. I learned how to play, and most of you guys may not know those names, but those are some pretty big names in the sport of beach volleyball. So those transitions, I know how they go from indoor to beach and what value they have.
Perfect. No, I love it. So Carly, along the same lines, I know, when we look at outside hitter indoor approaches, they tend to be long and slow. When you look at a middles approach, sometimes they tend to have to get up in a 1-2 or just off a 1 quick transition. Did you find being a middle that it helped you like not do that negative step that Eric and Mark were alluding to before, or is it something you still have to work on as a player? And I guess what I'm alluding to is, how did your footwork change, or how does it change on the beach versus the indoor game?
I definitely had to change my footwork. First of all, timing wise, everything I ran as a middle was quick. So I had to learn how to wait when I first got onto the beach. And I had a strong step close, just a plant, jump straight up to the ball and hit. But yeah, it's still initially on the beach, I would just run different routes wherever the set was, just coming in at odd angles, because that's what I did a lot indoor. And I had to learn how to pass and then immediately get out when I'm on the left or playing on the left. And then on the right side, also pass and take a step in and just create those angles every time I pass. So my setter can give me the set and I have the correct spacing to come in and just have consistency with that. As a middle, I would just, I'd come in from the right, the left, straight, just whatever angle I was at.
Yeah. So Carly, on the beach right now, as you play, do you have a preset of who you're going to go up against, what side your partner is going to set you on, or are you guys more or so ad-libbing and adapting as the situation occurs and just talking through the point?
It depends very much on who I'm partnering with. This last season, I played both on the left side and the right side. I found that I have strengths on the right side. I contact the ball higher and I can approach more straight in. Once I started actually learning how to swing out on the left every time and build that consistency, the left side has become a lot stronger for me. So currently I'm practicing on the left side. That also gives me the option to hit the ball over on 2. It's a lot easier if my partner passes and I can come in and swing rather than optioning on the right side. So I think as the tall, athletic attacker kind of player that I am, the left side is probably a better spot for me.
Fair enough. No, thank you. So Eric, kind of along the same lines, and some people want to know about quote unquote hitting on 2 and, the cheese, setting a ball over on 2, when to hit over on 2, when to set over on 2, is it a back and forth? You kind of keep that mentally in your head. Hey, you did 1, I'm going to get you back later. Or if you can score a point, go score the point.
Yeah, your job is to put the ball to the sand. So I do like it going over on 2. I don't think we did it that much when I was on tour, and I do like it now, especially for juniors and even on the pro level. If you can get the ball down the sand a little bit easier than going on, the traditional 1, 2, 3, then do it. My just rule of thumb was if I messed up on going over on 2 or they got it, I typically wouldn't do it again until the next game. These are just stuff that I would do. But practice, that's a perfect time to try it out. Setting it over on 2, great. I encourage everyone to use their hands as much as possible. I don't even care what age you are, and I don't really care if you throw it. Yeah, over on 2, but do it in rhythm. Don't just do it to do it. If you see the ball, if you see it open, hit it over, get it to the sand as quickly as possible.
Fair enough. No, thank you. So Mark, maybe you can take this question, and then Carly and Eric, I'll ask you guys, and I apologize because I don't understand the question fully from Facebook. They want to know your thoughts between match play versus tournament style rankings, and the pros and cons of both and which one you like better. Again, this is a question from Facebook. So they talk about match play versus tournament style team rankings and what is better. Eric, you're shaking your head that you understand that question. Perhaps you can elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, that has to do with, I'm assuming it has to do with duels, or if you're in pool play, you do 2 out of 3. It just depends on timing. I mean, if you're doing maybe single elimination match play, it makes sense. 2 out of 3, you win, you move on. But then what do you do with the losing team if they do lose? You put them in a silver bracket, and then they play one more match, and if they lose, they're out. Pool play, typically, well, you'll get more games out of it, and then you can move into match play after that, or you can do 1 game. Mark knows more on the competition side, but in college you're doing match play, so it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. For the juniors, I think it's more of let's get as many games as we can. Let's not just do 1 and done. That wouldn't be fair for them.
Okay, yeah, Mark, same idea, I guess. So I'm starting to understand it. So pool play or more, elimination style play, I guess, is what we're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, for juniors, the objective from the consensus of what we've talked to parents and athletes, mostly the athletes, is they want to have the experience of playing different teams, right? So if you come into a tournament, and the other thing too is like for Eric and I, when we played and grew up, it was a 2-day tournament. Not often was it a pool play; it was a double elimination. So you can be done in 2 games, and game to 15, and you're done, 2 of them, or you can continue to play over 2 days and get 5 games in on a Saturday, and then another 3 or 4 if you make it all the way to the finals on Sunday. Now everything is more compact. Typically, parents and athletes want to play a tournament in 1 day, but they want to experience playing other teams. So if you do match, you extend a lot of match time with those athletes, and they get burned out after like the 3rd match. So that really doesn't get you far if you have 30-something teams in a division. If you have smaller divisions, you can do that. But that's like, even if you have 8 teams, that's a lot of matches you're going to play just in a single elimination going down to the finals. The other part is that we do pool play, so we can get the experience of playing other teams, as many of them. Then we can kind of reseed them into a single elimination playoff. What we do is we try to do that all the way down. So there's been a couple of series where we started doing first round match play and then going to single games throughout the rest, which can be where we usually do that for the national championships. In a typical tournament, because time is pressed, we end up doing single games till we get to the semi and the final. But even then, we request that the athletes do match play in the semis, in the finals, and a 3rd place bracket. But we leave it to the athletes, because by then they've played full. If you say you're full a 14 pool, you played 3 games there. You come out, you play another 2 to 3, getting into the semifinal. Maybe you played a match in the semifinal. Now you've looked in at, you're playing about 4 or 5 matches already total to get to that point. You haven't gotten to the finals and maybe the finals. So we say require or request that they go to semis, but and start playing match it there. But we leave it up to the athletes, because the athletes are the ones out there playing the whole time. They're the ones going through the heat. The parents are the ones pushing from the sidelines under their umbrella and the nice cool drinks throughout the day. So we kind of leave that to that.
And so,
national championships, it usually we for sure have to lock it down to a match, because there's a national championship title, there's medals involved. There's a lot of accolades with those that come along. So we try to do a match, best 2 out of 3, so that there's some fairness going into that.
So Carly, your typical outdoor beach tournament right now, what does your schedule look like? When do you fly in? What day of the week? When do you play, including if you have to go through the prelims? And then, when does it end, and what does that look like? And kind of what's the course of that week leading up to it? And I know sometimes we travel pretty far to go play beach wise, you know, in the world.
Yes. Let's see. So leading up, especially if I'm in the middle of I know usually I'll be in a training block leading up to some specific tournaments. So I'm training pretty hard, 5 times a week in the sand, and then doing the extra lifts, maybe some extra pass and set sessions. And then if I have to travel, I try to arrive to the location about 2 days before, because it's really important to get, I don't know, it depends actually. Like internationally, you want to get there earlier than that, especially if you have a different time zone to adjust to. If I'm staying in the nation, usually 2 days before, sometimes 1 day before, but you want to get out to the tournament site, get in the sand, and get a feel for where you're going to be playing, what the weather is like, what the sand's like, what the courts are like. So I make sure to get there and practice where I'm going to be playing. And then, let's see, I don't know.
The stage usually what? Usually a Tuesday or a Wednesday?
A Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't know if it's a AVP tournament, qualifiers are on Thursdays, and then main draw starts Friday, goes Saturday, and then Sunday is semifinals and finals. So if I'm in the qualifier for the AVP, I'll try to get there on a Tuesday.
Gotcha. It's a grind, no doubt about it. So Eric, along the same lines, like where has volleyball taken you on the professional beach scene? Where are some of the coolest places and craziest places you have played? I hear stories, some pros, you know, are in the finals on Sunday night and they got to keep pushing back their playing because they're supposed to play somewhere else that next week and have to get there soon. So what crazy places have you been? What's the craziest turnaround you've ever made?
Let's see, Austria is always a good one. Austria, those fans, it seems like they went to school and they got their chants down perfectly. They're in unison and they're just rocking that stadium. So really fun country to play in. They just love beach volleyball and letting us do our thing, and they appreciated our athleticism. And Hannes does a great job over there. The Olympics is always, that's always going to be one that I cherish, just because there were so many people there in Australia, and just the whole experience of being in the Olympics was great. But back in the day, we came in the day of, let's say there's a meeting for draw, or maybe the qualifier, and they're going to put the draw in there and you have to go to the technical meeting. We typically there a day before at the most, but sometimes we didn't have so many restrictions on flights. We would be able to change those flights immediately because we were such a high status. They let us change them on the day of, and like, hey, we're coming in. We'll see you later. And it was very convenient. Now you probably would get stuck. And then all the change fees that kind of go with it if you do want to change. So a little bit different times, but those turnarounds, especially when you're in the grind, you just got to do it. You don't really have a choice. And then you want to get acclimated. Sometimes you don't have a choice to get acclimated. At that point, it's mental. You're going to a new spot and you don't have very much time. You got to rest, shut off your mind as best you can, and focus in on the next task at hand, which is wake up on time because of the time change, and then get out there and perform. It's it's definitely a mental grind and sometimes physical grind.
Awesome. Eric, I know you're short on time and you had a hard, 3 quarters after that you had to leave, and we're about at that time for you, but we'll stay on with the rest of the cast. But any last bit of advice you would give to one of our coaches out there on, just words of advice they can give to their players on the beach scene?
Good question. So I prepared a little bit. Station training. I really love station training. So I don't I wouldn't do it all the time, but at least once in your training sessions, especially if you have like 2 or 3, maybe 4 station training, break it up. They just focus on whatever court that is, and they work on passing, let's say, and maybe setting on a different one, and just that's all they do on that court. Competition drills, I think is extremely important that a lot of the drills are competitive. I love 2 and 3 ball drills, meaning that if you're, let's say, siding out and you get both of the side out ball and the free ball, then one big point, maybe play for 3 points or 4 to 5, depending on how long it takes. I kind of sometimes will break it down and say, oh, we're going too long. Let's, next big point wins. 3 ball drills or wash drills. I love those too. Those are great drills to get more touches, as many touches as possible. And then the person who's really in charge is the coach, because they're the ones that are throwing the balls quickly, so there's not as much downtime. So that's my 2. So those are my 2 that I like.
Well, I love it. Keep it quick, keep it competitive, without a doubt. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask this question. What's it like, in a couple words, to win a gold medal?
It was a dream come true. Something that I wanted to. I wouldn't mind doing the work. I didn't know where I was going to go with it all. I just gave everything I had, and it all kind of panned out. But it's a lot of work and fun. Carly has a long ways to go, especially in the traveling part, and experiencing other people's cultures, and then respecting what who they are and what they represent. So it's a fun journey. I loved it all the way.
Awesome. No, I appreciate your time, Eric. Thank you for joining us this evening.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
So, Carly, I'll go back to you. And kind of Eric alluded to my next question is, you had a chance to play professionally. You still are indoor and outdoor. When you go to one of these other countries, what was the most interesting or difficult thing that you could talk about to us about the culture, the language, the style of play you alluded to before, maybe the food or cuisine? What are these things, what cool story did you have, about one of those type things?
I think playing overseas is challenging on so many levels, and it's hard to completely understand until you go do it. But if you talk to any professional indoor player specifically who has done a season overseas, they will tell you it's just hard. It's you're isolated on a whole new level. You don't have any friends or family, but it did get easier every year I did it, and I learned what things worked for me, and how to make the most of it. I think probably the hardest thing is communication. It's just hard, especially as a team, working with your teammates on the court. It's difficult to not be able to communicate in the same language. So I tried my best to learn the languages of whatever country I was playing in. And in Japan and in China, I had translators, which was a huge help because those languages are pretty difficult. But I also learned that there's a lot of ways to communicate without using language, through body language, eye contact. There's a lot of nonverbal ways of communicating. So that was just a really cool thing to learn in itself. And then, cultural differences can be a bit of a shock. I really enjoy learning about all different types of cultures and eating different foods and everything. So that was fun for me. China was probably the most difficult in terms of cultural difference. But yeah, I know it's just overall it can be very lonely because you're there to train and play. So I would go have a 3-hour morning session, come back, eat, and maybe take a quick nap, then go back and train again for 3 hours, come back, eat, go to bed, and that's it. that's your whole life. And then you travel and you compete. Yeah.
Yep. No, and kind of along the same lines as that. So you talked about the lifestyle of a true professional in the sport. Would you say, for the aspiring, high level Division 1 or even the Division 2 or Division 3 or JUCO or any IA athlete, what does the schedule of a Stanford athlete look like, and how challenging is that?
At Stanford, I had to schedule out my days time-wise to the T. So actually what worked for me was waking up early, like 5 or 6, studying, and then going to my 9 a.m. class, 11 a.m. class, all my classes. And then we would usually have a practice at 3 p.m., maybe a lift afterwards. And by dinner time, I'm like exhausted. Mm-hmm. So studying early in the morning worked for me, but yeah, just getting very good with planning out your days and compartmentalizing, because being a student athlete is very difficult, and you're having to juggle things that most of the student population does not have to deal with. So yeah. No,
I thought you did it very, very well. So congrats. Mark, one of the questions we got from the audience, and Carly, you can take this as well later, is how do I choose the right beach partner for me? And I guess how do players try to complement each other? How do you do that as a coach? And how do I do that as a player?
I think one of the important things to do, especially on the beach side, if you're really looking for a cohesive partner, somebody that brings your level of play up, somebody who's positive, somebody who's got the same mindset and goals that you do, and be able to challenge each other to keep pushing each other. So finding that athlete that complements your style. So maybe you're like Carly, you're more of a blocker. Maybe you need somebody who can play a little more defense, or you want somebody that can switch with, back and forth, that can block, and you can play defense. You have that ability too. But always playing towards your strengths, knowing what the weaknesses and then what your weaknesses are, and somebody who can help enhance those, so that you, as a team, you can do the best you can, and you can also feel like you're going in to compete to do the best you can. I've always said that you can take the 2 best players in the world and put them together, and you may not get what you expect you would get. But you can have the combination of somebody, maybe 2 players that are good and play together and they're exceptional, or a combination thereof. The big part is that you have to have that cohesiveness and that chemistry, they call it mostly, and be able to succeed from there. Keep pushing each other.
Yeah, and I agree. Carly, same idea. So how do you find that right chemistry, and how do you find the right partner for yourself?
So partnerships is a really difficult thing to figure out in beach, and I've gotten a lot of great advice, but something a coach told me is that sometimes partners that you think you'd play well with, you really don't. It just doesn't pan out the way you think. And then sometimes somebody you wouldn't expect to play really well with, you mesh exceptionally well and you succeed. So I think it's just really important to play with a lot of different people and try things out and see what works. And through that process, you can start to figure out, okay, I think this is the type of partner that complements me best overall. I know I look for 2 things I do look for in a partner are professionalism and potential to succeed with that partner. So I want somebody who can meet me on the level of professionalism of just like training, willingness to train every day, showing up on time, taking care of nutrition and training and recovery, all of the little details. Mm-hmm. And then I also want to partner with someone that I think we can, that I think I can win with. So those are 2 things that I specifically look for.
Awesome. So Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. We have a question from the audience. when can USA, you, Carly, Eric, do your next clinic on the Jersey Shore?
That'd be great. You can fly us out there. We'll come out this weekend.
So things are going to open up. Actually, not until the 22nd, but we'll get there soon.
Oh, there we go. 22nd.
Yeah.
Push you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we are definitely working on in the region getting something out with Mike Adams and ourselves. So Carly, along the lines of the Stanford stuff too, I guess, if you could pinpoint to one, because we don't have a whole lot of time, but could you pinpoint to one great achievement, at Stanford, kind of with maybe a little bit of backstory there too, kind of like just something you remember that was amazing, that you accomplished at Stanford, and just the story that goes with that.
Oh gosh, let's see. Well, I did receive my senior year. I received the Pam Strathern Award for Best Competitive Attitude of all Stanford senior student athletes, and I thought that was a pretty cool honor. I am highly competitive, and as a member of the women's volleyball team, it was kind of my leadership role to lead the team in that capacity. So I brought a lot of intensity, I brought a lot of fire, and I've continued to learn what I think it means to be a competitor over the years. But a lot of that, I think, just transfers to all different facets of life. And I hope I can continue to bring that competitive energy and just, help lift up everyone around me. I don't know.
Well, Carly, just by being here, you've inspired a lot of people. So I thank you for your time and what you're doing abroad too. Mark, along the same lines, what do you look for besides the obvious skills of a volleyball player? Carly alludes to her competitiveness, which comes out right away. What other intangibles, do you look for in the elite volleyball beach players?
Oh, yes. A lot of it doesn't even pertain to skill. A lot of it's the coachability, the competitiveness, the fire, the willing to keep fighting. A little quick story. Many of you guys may know Nick Lucena, who plays on our tour, a national team player on the beach. He was maybe 19, 20 years old. I was playing on the tour. I was like 28 at the time. There was an East Coast Championship. It wasn't an AVP event, but it was an East Coast Championship. I was going out. My partner had to back out. And somebody said, hey, why don't you play with this young kid? And I'd seen him the year before. I was like, he's too young. There's no way. But I ended up playing with him. Went out there in pool play. We didn't do well at all. He was young. He was still learning the game. And it came down to like the last team to get out of pool, and the team beat us out by like 1 point. But the team that beat us out, the guy got injured, so they ended up just pushing us up and taking the next pool spot and going to the playoffs. So at first we thought we were out. Next thing we know, we're in the playoffs. He was willing to work hard, work with me and figuring it all out just in that short time. So the next day we came back to the single elimination playoffs, we made it all the way through and won the tournament. So the willingness not to give up, understanding that, hard work does pay off, and coachability will take you miles, not just in beach volleyball, not just in volleyball, but any sport you get into, any life experiences you get into, those are very valuable things. So we look for those things as the high performance program there are those athletes that can do that bring a tangibility to the group, to the teams, to the players around them, that are so valuable that we can't deny you. We have to have you because of those things. Sometimes, you might be a player. We're looking for a 6'4", beach player that can block, hit, set, do all these things. But it may be this 5'6" person who's got this amazing fire that we know that's going to benefit our team in an overall aspect in training, understanding, work ethic, mindset, and establishing those things within the players and creating that kind of a culture and pushing that forward. Those are the important parts of it. In the other aspect of the coach's portion these things. And Carly kind of alluded to this whole thing about the transition. When you ask the question of transitioning from a junior going to college and college coming out, big thing for these coaches that they can do is help prepare these kids as juniors going into the college. Because as juniors, you have somewhat structure. Your parents are helping you do a lot of things. You're just kind of going and you're getting dropped off. You play, you come back, you do all this stuff. College, you're in a structure. You're being told when to train, how to train, where to fly, where to meet, where to go. And then after college, a lot of these kids, when they start going into professional leagues or trying to play on the professional beach tour, they're completely lost. And they have no idea of what to do and how to manage themselves, from nutrition to training, recovery, preparing themselves, getting a partner. All these things can be taught prior, during, and after, so that they can make through. There's values in each one of those things as a junior, as a collegiate player, and afterwards. So they just have to be prepared for those things. Coaches can do those things and help with that. And that's part of the stuff we teach in a high performance program.
Perfect. And that plugs us in for the last part I want to talk about is in 2 weeks, we have none other than Dan Mickle coming in, who is one of the beach high performance cadre. So we are running an intro to BCAP, which is the Beach Coaches Accreditation Program through USA Volleyball. We're running an intro as our Jiva Live show 2 weeks from today. So if you're interested in getting, just a little bit of taste of that, that beach coaching ideas, we have that for you. Mark, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about like BCAP real fast and kind of, just a quick little bit on that.
Yeah, BCAP is one of our training courses that we have. Teaches you, different strategies of how to coach. You learn to take information from other coaches as well, and what works and what doesn't work as a group. You come up with plans to what would be successful for you to take back to your coaching skills and stuff. So it takes you through a process of what we've done in the past and where we've evolved through, especially on the beach side in the coaching. I know me as a player who's been playing this game for over 35 years, and guys like Eric and people who I've brought in to take the course. At first, it's like, hey, who's going to teach us that we've been playing it all our life? But there is a full other side of this aspect where it teaches the coaches how to teach to players. Because I've seen some of the top players in the world try to teach volleyball or any other sport, and it's just not happening. They just don't have that ability to relate to the player, especially this day and age. It's much different than it was, 5, 15, 20 years ago, where you have a little bit more of a technique to it. So these things, the BCAP will teach you those things. It'll give you some great insight, give you some great ability to communicate with your athletes and be able to have the ability to teach them and push them to the next level.
Awesome. I appreciate it. So again, that is 2 weeks from now. Before I sign off, I'm gonna give both of you, the chance to say one more thing to our audience. We appreciate all your time. You guys did great, and Eric as well. But Carly, any last words of advice you'd like to give our coaching staff out there, or a junior that's iffy about playing beach, and what advice would you give to that person right now?
I would just say go play it. I mean, we've talked, Mark has mentioned this already, but just touch the ball as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Go play for fun. I think playing in different sorts of environments is really good. That's what works for me. So sometimes I'll go out and play fours on the weekend, and that's just for fun with a bunch of different people. Other times it's me and it's one coach, and I'm just drilling and I'm working on specific parts of like technique and mechanics. And then other times it's me and a partner versus another team, and we're trying to mimic more of live play. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to play for fun, work on specifics, and just get out there as much as possible.
Carly, I feel like me and you could have like a 3-hour conversation on deliberate practice and what it means to be truly focused on a skill, because it's definitely coming out big time, and I appreciate that big. So thank you for your time. Mark, any last words for our audience or the aspiring player or our coaching staff out there?
Yeah, I mean, for all athletes and all coaches, and Carly and Eric touched on this, is obviously we're here, we want to get better at volleyball, we want to play volleyball, indoor, outdoor, it doesn't matter. The unique thing about volleyball and versus most other sports that I've personally found experience is the experience when you meet people, traveling, having the access to a community that's worldwide, and you can go literally around the world. I can travel to Abu Dhabi and run into a volleyball group and just engage with the community, and then start, opening up and learning a lot from people doing that. And you can do that literally around the world. So volleyball, whether you're good or you're bad or you're just kind of learning, it's something that will help take you to places that you never thought of. And for me as an athlete when I played, it took me to places I never even dreamed of or thought about. And, for some of you guys who really excel, like your Eric Fonoy-Moanas or your Carly's that have had the opportunity to play professionally overseas or win a gold medal, those experiences are tenfold, and every one of them will tell you it's the path that they took on to get to those goals that was the fun part, that what they learned, with who they met and who they get to engage with and do things with. So think about that as you're making your process. Stay within your time, within your means, where you're at, and really embrace those moments when you're going through all this and training. When things are hard, your coach is yelling at you, or you're dealing with a tough, athlete. Think of those processes and learning from both ends, and how you can push each other and be better.
Well said, sir. Well said. No doubt about it. So again, I want to thank everybody, the entire panel, for their time. Mike Adams, Eric, Carly, Mark, and of course behind the scenes, Aaron the band. It's been real. We could talk for hours, but again, you guys were outstanding, and I look forward to seeing you on the court, on the beach, and to bigger aspirations beyond this. Thank you again, and this has been another great edition of Jiva Live.
Thank you.
Thank you.